Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Welcome back to Agricultural Science class. Today we'll be going to Agricultural Ecology and see Mr. Samuel. Now, Agricultural Ecology, as you can see on the board, is the study of farm animals and crops in relation to the environment. Or you can say is the study of crops and farm animals in relation to their environment. Actually, the word ecology was derived from a Greek word, oikos, which means home or the dwelling place. Home or the dwelling place. While logy is the study. So ecology just talks about the study of the crops we plant on the farm and animals we rear on the farm in relation to their environment. Now, agricultural ecology is divided into two. You have the horticology and the synecology. Horticology and the synecology. Horticology is the study of individual organisms in relation to its environment. The study of individual organism or a species of an organism in relation to its environment. For instance, the study of a cow in relation to the grassland where it's feeding. While synecology is the study of a group of organisms or a group of species of organisms in relation to the environment and interdependency between them. The study of a group of organisms or a group of species of organisms and the relationship and interdependency between them and the environment. Okay. Now, we want to look at the components of farm ecology. When we talk about a farm where we plant crops or where animal lives or are reared or are managed. So we want to look at the ecology of such a place, the components of farm ecology. Now, farm ecology has two basic groups of components. You have the biotic component, then you have the abiotic component. The biotic component talks about the living components, while the abiotic component talks about the non-living components. Now, the living component, the biotic component, is also divided into two. You have the autotrophism and you have the heterotrophism. The autotrophism, the heterotrophism. Now, in an ecosystem, you have the group of organisms that produce the food they eat, while you have the group of other organisms that don't produce food, but they depend on the producers, on the autotrophism, for their food. So those ones that produce their food, they are actually the green plants, and they are called autotrophism. They are able to produce their food through the process known as photosynthesis. They trap the sunlight through their chlorophyll, and then they take water from the soil and CO2 from atmosphere to produce their food. You must have seen an equation like this before. 6 H2O plus 6 CO2. Then you have chlorophyll. Then you have sunlight. Then you have 6. You have C6 H12 O6 plus 6 O2 plus 6 O2. Now, this is the process by which grain plants manufacture their food. So that's the autotrophism. The grain plants, they produce their food in the ecosystem. That is the first biotic component of the farm ecosystem or ecology. Now, you also have the second group, the heterotrophism. You see, without the heterotrophism, the ecology of the farm will not be completed. So you have the heterotrophism. We call them hetero because they are not just only one way. They are broken to three. We have the primary consumers. These are the herbivores. These are the herbivores. Then you have the secondary consumers and the tertiary consumers. Here, you have the carnivores, and then you have the omnivores. Now, the heterotrophism, they are not capable of producing their food. They depend on the producers. So the first group of them are those ones that eat directly on the producers. These are the primary consumers. The herbivores. Examples are cattle, goat, sheep, rabbits. They feed on the grasses, they feed on the plants. Then you have the secondary consumers, which feed on the primary consumers. They are majorly animals that feed on other animals that are herbivores. Among them, you may have the hyena, you may have tiger, you may have dog, you may have cats. They feed on animals that feed on grasses. Now, these secondary consumers, after you also have what we call the tertiary consumers, the third group. The third group feed on the second group. So we may have here man. We may also have the tiger, lion, hyena. They feed on the secondary consumers. Now these are the biotic components of the farm ecology or the farm ecosystem. Then you also have this abiotic component. That's the non-living component. Here you have the non-living component of the ecosystem, which include the climatic factors. Then you have the inorganic materials. Then you have the edaphic factors. Now, the climatic factors also affect the life of the animals and the plants in the ecosystem. Temperature, the rainfall, the wind, the sunlight, the relative humidity. All these are the climatic factors. When it is favorable, the animals and the plants, they live very well, they multiply, they increase. But when it is not favorable, either too much or it's too little for their survival, they tend to perform negatively. So temperature, rainfall, wind, sunlight, and relative humidity, they are the climatic factor under the abiotic component of the farm ecology. Then we also have the second group, the inorganic materials. The inorganic materials, they refer to the chemicals, they refer to the macro and the micro minerals in the soil that the plant require to do very well, to grow very well, to build their cells, and to mature their tubers. Now, examples of such, you have oxygen, you have CO2, nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, etc. You know oxygen is required in respiration of plants and animals. Yes. CO2 is also required in the photosynthesis. You have the equation. It's from the CO2 that you have with water that you have your glucose produced. Then you have the nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, and others, which are the major essential nutrients in the soil which plant requires either for formation of protein in the body or formation of cells and other tissues in the body. Now, you also have the edaphic factors. This is the soil factors. This includes the soils, the rocks, and all the components of the soil, like soil organisms. All these are the edaphic factors that make the abiotic component of the farm ecology. Good. Now, I want to look at the interactions among components of the ecosystem. Do not forget, we have defined ecosystem as the study of crops and farm animals in relation to the environment. The study of crops and farm animals, are in relation with the environment. So I want to look at how the component of the ecosystem interacts. Now, finally, let's look at the monocropping. Monocropping, the word mono means single. So monocropping can also be called sole or single cropping. And cropping is the art of planting crops. Now, monocropping is a system whereby a farmer cultivates only one type or one species of a crop on a piece of land at a time. Monocropping or sole cropping is a system whereby a farmer cultivates only one type or one species of crop on a farmland at the same time. This is often done on the large-scale farming where a farmer cultivates only one type. For instance, if I might decide to plant only cocoa all through, you might try to plant only maize all through, you might try to plant only cassava all through. So when he does that, it's called monocropping. Should he want to plant another crop, he will first of all harvest that that cassava or that maize before he can attempt to plant another type of crop. Now, monocropping has relationship with the environment. For instance, the crops will take nutrients from the soil, will take fertility organic matter from the soil, will take water from the rain and also from the soil, will take oxygen from the soil to respire, will take CO2 to photosynthesize, will trap sunlight to produce its food through photosynthesis. Now, the crops equally release values to the environment, to the ecosystem. Number one, some of these crops, the leaves will fall to the ground, and these leaves will decay, will return nutrient. Part of the nutrient taken will be returned to the soil. During respiration, these crops will release CO2. This CO2 will also escape to the atmosphere. During photosynthesis, the crops will release oxygen. This oxygen will go to the environment. The crops that are produced, some of them will nourish the animals that are living in that place. And the animal will yield is manure, that's dung, is a waste product, and the urine to the soil, which improve the organic matter of the soil. So an organism cannot live in isolation. They interdepend on one another. So the monocropping, the act by which a farmer cultivates one type of crop at a particular time, adds value to the ecosystem. Second one is mixed cropping. The word mixed means you have more than one. Now, mixed cropping is a system whereby a farmer cultivates two or more types of crops or two or more species of crops on the same piece of land at the same time. For instance, a farmer cultivates maize. In the next 1 month, even while the maize is still growing, we'll go ahead and put cassava there. That means maize has been interplanted with cassava. While the maize is growing, after some months, the maize will be harvested, cassava will continue. Even some farmers may have three. After they planted cassava, they may decide to plant okra there. So when you plant more than one type of a crop, or more than one species of a crop on a piece of land, that is called mixed cropping. It has advantages. Because some of these crops, some of them are shallow feeders, some are deep feeders. Shallow feeders are the crops that take their nutrient from low depth of the soil, while deep feeders are the ones that take their nutrient from the deep depth of the crops, of the soil. So they have a way of going through the soil to pick the nutrient at different levels. And when they are dead, or when their leaf falls, or when they are harvested, some of their body will go back to the soil and add nutrients to the soil. Like I mentioned under monocropping, when they respire, they also introduce CO2 to the atmosphere. When they photosynthesize, they release oxygen to the atmosphere. They also release food to the crop animals that come and feed on them. These are release their nutrients to the soil through defecation and urination. So they help in recycling the nutrients in the soil and in the atmosphere. Then the third is the forest. You have mixed farming. That was mixed cropping. Then you have the mixed farming. The word farming talks about rearing of crops and planting of crops and rearing of animals. So when you say mixed farming, it means both rearing of crops and planting of animals take place on a piece of land at the same time. So mixed farming is a system of farming whereby a farmer plants crops and equally rear farm animals on the same piece of land at the same time. Often this is done by demarcating the farmland by dividing it into two. A section will be used for planting crops, another section will be used for rearing animals. The advantages here include that while the farmer is is planting crops at one side, the leftover of the crops after harvested could be brought to the animal section to be used to feed the animals. Instead of the farmers running a excavator to get feed for the animals, you could actually get the leftovers of harvest and feed on the animals. Not only that, these animals, you see, at certain intervals, they interchange. The animals will come to the section of crops, crops will take you to the section of the animals. With these animals, while staying in their section, they would have defecated, urinated, they would have released enough manure to the ground. So while the plants now are planted in the section that formerly belonged to the animals, these nutrients that were released through the dung or the waste product of the animals can serve as organic manure, which the plants will benefit from. Now, coming to the fourth one, this is forest or savanna. Now, forest is a large area of land predominantly occupied by trees and shrubs, either growing naturally or established by man. I repeat, a forest is a large area of land predominantly occupied by trees or shrubs, either growing wild or established by man. In other words, a forest is a large area. You have trees there. You see, even you have animals living there. And in that process, the ecology of that place will be fully interwoven between the animals that are living there and the trees. So the animals will use the branch of the trees as home. The animals will feed on some of these trees, the fruits and the leaves. The trees equally will benefit from the animals, because when the animals release their dung, their waste product, it goes to the soil, which return the nutrients back to the trees. Then the trees, their branches serve as canopy to reduce effects of rainfall, erosion, leaching on the soil. So they form canopy and they prevent direct impact of rainfall on the soil, thereby controlling erosion and leaching. And they equally benefit from the water that comes from the atmosphere. They help in recycling the nature. Even the trees serve as windbreak. So the forest trees or the forest as a whole, they play a leading role in interacting and in the component ecosystem. Then you also have the savanna. The savanna is a large area of land predominantly occupied by grasses, which also will be growing wild, established by man. Majorly, savanna, they are natural grassland. In the north, in the savanna belt, either Sudan savanna or Sahel savanna. Now, in such area, you have green plants too. You have grasses, that are growing lusciously in that area. They gain nutrients from the soil, and when they are dead, they return nutrients to the soil. They also help to feed the animals, which in turn release their manure in form of dung or excrement and urine into the soil. The last one is fish pond. A fish pond is a natural aquatic environment. A pond is a dugout of soil that contains water, where the animals could be reared, managed, and grown to its size, bigger size, where they could be sold in the market. Now, in a fish pond, fish feed on what we call planktons. We have two types of planktons. We have the phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. Phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. The phytoplanktons are the planktons that originated from plants, while the zooplanktons are the planktons that originated from animals. Don't forget, planktons are very small microscopic organisms that plants feed on. These planktons grow and they multiply in the pond, and they add to they provide feed to the fishes in the water in the pond. The fishes also respire oxygen and they produce CO2. This CO2 will be used by phytoplankton to photosynthesize and build their food. Then the fishes equally, some of them could be dead at different times. They add nutrients to the soil, by which the planktons can also get their food. Now, these are the basis of interactions among the components of the ecosystem.